So I recently got back from some extensive travels.
2 months, 3 countries, back to back to back. And it turned out to be one of the most thrilling, rewarding, and occasionally terrifying stretches of travel I've ever done. It kicked off in Munich, just wandering the city, shooting street photography as a warm-up. Then straight into Uganda, trekking deep into the jungle after chimps and gorillas, and boating into the wetlands to find the shoebill stork, which looks like something straight out of the dinosaur age. And I ended in Tanzania, out on jeep safaris every single day, where I had the privilege of teaching a whole group of professional safari guides how to shoot wildlife. And through all of it, I was putting a ton of new gear to the test. Wireless mics, action cameras, backpacks, filters, lenses, and a lot more time on the Nikon ZR. The trip threw a few curveballs too. There was a toxic fly that's not even a fly, and it nearly ended my trip and my life, or so I thought. And then the closest, craziest encounter I've ever had in the wild, which also nearly ended my life, or so I thought. So I'm turning the whole thing into a series. Over the next few videos, you'll get the highlights, the lowlights, the behind the scenes, and basically whatever's running through my head that I think it's worth sharing. Hey everyone, my name's Yobel. I'm a travel and wildlife photographer and filmmaker, and the whole point of my channel is to share the best of the world with the rest of the world through my lens. Now, this is the start of a brand new series on my channel. I figured rather than cramming 2 months of travel into one giant video, I'm breaking the whole thing into digestible episodes. Before the chimps and the gorillas and the safaris, I want to start with the context. Why on earth was I in Munich, Uganda, and Tanzania for 2 months straight? Basically, I had a few travel projects lined up that were back-to-back. I ran my own group photo tour in Uganda, and right after that tour wrapped up, I got hired as a wildlife photography instructor to train around 20 safari guides in Tanzania as part of Asilia Africa's training program. So why Munich in all of this? Well, there was a war going on affecting where I live in Dubai, so I figured it was smart to base myself with a friend in Munich and treat it as a temporary headquarters between my projects. So that's the why. Now let's get into the how, and the thing that makes all of this possible, the gear. Specifically, the camera rig that I put together with these jungle treks in mind. First up, the workhorses. My Nikon ZR, plus a second one I borrowed courtesy of Nikon Middle East and Africa. These are the cinematic core. The camera's doing the heavy lifting on basically everything you'll see in the series. A newer addition is the Freewell V2 filter. It's a 3 to 7 stop variable ND and a color polarizer all in one, which basically means I can control my exposure and cut the glare right from the camera. Freewell sent this over to try out with no strings attached, just wanting my honest opinion. I'll do a full review later, but the long story short is I put it through the ringer and I loved it. And you'll see the proof of this all over the series. Link is in the description if you want to check out Freewell and the rest of the gear. For audio, I was testing 2 new wireless mic systems, the Rode Wireless Pro and the Hollyland Lark Max 2, alongside the DJI Mic 2s that I already owned. And to carry all of it, the Pidgeotech One Pro ST backpack. This was my first international trip since Pidgeotech sent it to me, so I was excited to finally put it through its paces as well. Now with all of that out of the way, here was the real problem. How do I actually capture the wild when I'm crashing through a jungle, chasing chimps, carrying 2 cinema cameras and a bunch of action cameras, microphones, and other accessories? Well, I'm glad I asked. I'm sort of proud of myself for coming up with this system that I rigged up, so allow me to show it to you.
Okay, so I think I've got it all set up now. This is roughly speaking how I can potentially see my upcoming chimpanzee and gorilla treks happening. 1, I've got my cotton carrier CCS G3 vest, and I will basically have a second holster here on the side. So I'll have camera 1, which is, for now I'm just using this ZR with the 85. Imagine that's holstered into the chest strap here. And then I'll have my second Nikon ZR camera on the side here as I'm hiking. And then on the shoulder strap, I've got that Osmo backpack mount with the Action 6 attached there. The reason I'm going with the Action 6 instead of like an Osmo Pocket 3 or hopefully a 4 eventually is because when I'm in the jungle, anything that sticks out, runs into a higher risk of hitting tree branches or other things because it'll be dense forest or jungles. So ideally I can have anything that's a bit stockier, a bit lower profile, so it'll be a little bit safer. So that's the thought process behind the Action 6. Otherwise, I have filmed, and I actually have a video on YouTube now of what it looks like when I'm walking around with an Osmo Pocket 3 inside the forest. This is going to be 360, so the whole point of this one is more backup, I guess, but it's for the moments when I have to take the camera out and I'm in shooting mode. So this is just a way to never miss the action. And then of course my main cameras are the ones filming hopefully the most cinematic shots.
Side note, this setup completely proved its worth, and I ended up recording some of the most intense action I've ever captured, including the closest encounter I've ever had with the chimp when one came charging straight at me, which was my fault of course. But we'll save that all for a future episode.
I do have this little side handle here attached from Tilta. So that was my current thought, is that I would just kind of carry it like this. It'll give a bit more stability as well. So if you can imagine when I'm filming, this could be a bit heavy at times just because of the weight of the lens. So then this gives me a little bit more ease of use when I'm rushing around in the jungle to get a bit of stable footage. So with this Osmo Nano, the battery life won't last as long, especially because I'm shooting mostly in D-Log. Not mostly, everything should be shot in D-Log between all these action cameras in 4K. So from my testing in a previous project a few days ago, it doesn't last more than, I don't know, it might be like 5 to 10 to 15 minutes max, I think. So this will just be something where once I know the moment is there, I'll have to hit the button on the Osmo Nano, starts recording. So it'll just be like temporary bursts of recording for when I know there's a special moment. Otherwise, these guys, the 360 and the Action 6, will just be running nonstop. And just in case, that's where, if the battery dies, I did make sure to secure extra batteries. So yeah, I think between all of this, I should be able to survive 2 to 3 hours of jungle treks for the chimps and gorillas, but we'll see.
Now, before any of the wildlife, the whole trip actually started in Munich. And it was kind of the perfect place to break everything in. Before I took this rig into the jungle, I wanted to live with it somewhere that was more forgiving. So for a few days, I wandered aimlessly through the city with my rigged up vest and cameras, getting a feel for how the whole setup actually worked, or didn't work. Munich was also where the free will really earned its place. It sat on the front of my lens pretty much the entire time I was shooting, letting me dial in my exposure as the light kept shifting throughout the day. And if you want the full Munich adventure, I made a separate video where I put myself through a street photo and video challenge across the city, using a different lens every single day, which I hope you'll check out. Now, the big takeaway from the Munich Prep was that by the end of it, it kind of clicked that this rig might actually work, which looking back made me way more confident than I had any right to be. Because as Mike Tyson famously put it, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And my trip was no different. When a chimp comes charging at you in the jungle, or a beetle's toxin leaves a chemical burn across your neck and puts you flat on your back, the whole planning goes out the window. But, spoiler alert, the prep and the gear, they got me through it with some of the best captures I still can't believe I got. But you'll see it. So that's the setup, and that's the plan. Over the next few videos, you'll join me in Uganda's wetlands in search of the shoebill stork. We'll trek into the forest with the local rangers to hang out with chimps and gorillas, and you'll ride along while I try to teach a whole group of professional safari guides how to shoot wildlife with the camera. Oh, and that whole chemical burn fly situation I keep bringing up, we'll definitely get into that as well, but in due time. As we say though, expect anything, enjoy everything. That's always been the motto. Anyways, that's it for now. So until next time, stay focused, stay sharp. See ya.